Today for our daily cancellation, I must come to the defense of a fellow YouTuber and commentator. Sydney Watson was the subject of internet outrage over the weekend. It generated critical headlines in the media after she complained about her experience on an American Airlines flight where she was stuck for several hours between two morbidly obese passengers. Now, it all began with this tweet thread published in helpless anguish a few days ago, in which Watson writes, quote, "I am currently literally wedged between two obese people on my flight. This is absolutely not acceptable or okay. If fat people want to be fat, fine. But it's something else entirely when I'm stuck between you, with your arm rolls on my body for 3 hours." She continues, "I don't care if this is mean. My entire body is currently being touched against my wishes. I can't even put the armrests down on either side because there's no effing room. I'm sick of acting like fatness to this extent is normal. Let me assure you, it is not. I'm so effing mad, I don't even have words. If you need a seatbelt extender, you are too fat to be on a plane. Buy 2 seats or don't fly. I said to the man, hey, we can swap seats if you'd like to sit together. His sister is on my left. He says, no, that's okay. And then I started shrieking internally." Now, in photos taken secretly, though not revealing the other passengers' faces, you can actually see that their bodies are, in fact, spilling over into her seat, squeezing her in on either side. In fact, they have so much oversized baggage attached to their physical frames that Watson can't even put her tray table down. There's another photo of her trying to put the tray table down, and one of their stomachs is like in the way, and she can't put it down. This is very much like the scene in Star Wars where Luke and Leia wind up in a trash compactor that nearly crushes them to death. Except in this case, the trash compactor is made out of sweaty human flesh, and thus is far more horrifying. Also, if memory serves me, I think C-3PO bailed them out of that jam, but Sydney Watson had no one to rescue her. Not even after the fact, when American Airlines responded to her complaints with this. This was their response, their official company response. Quote, "Our passengers come in all different sizes and shapes. We're sorry you were uncomfortable on your flight, period." Of course, if your luggage weighs 1 pound over 50, American Airlines will charge you $100 extra. If it weighs over 100 pounds, you can't bring it on the flight at all. So luggage is not allowed to come in all shapes and sizes, but a passenger can take up 1.5 seats. And the poor sap who gets stuck with the half seat just has to deal with it, apparently. This is the view of American Airlines and of the American media, which, as mentioned, blasted Watson for fat-shaming the bulbous individuals who nearly suffocated her. But as always, the media and the outrage mob have gotten this one entirely wrong. It is perfectly reasonable and appropriate for Sydney Watson to complain about this. And the reason why it's reasonable is very simple. She paid for a seat on the airplane. She paid for the entire width of the seat. She paid for the privilege of occupying that assigned space. And she paid a lot of money. Even if it's a crappy middle seat, she still paid a lot of money because flying is not cheap. The obese people on either side of her are taking space that does not belong to them and that they did not pay for. So she is indeed the aggrieved party in this case. She is entirely in the right. In fact, she is obviously, self-evidently in the right. It is absurd to expect a person to simply be okay with having someone else's body, two people's bodies as it happens, wedged against theirs for several hours in a row. You're flying on a plane, not attending an orgy. This kind of physical intimacy should not be part of the bargain. It's only become a standard feature of the air travel experience because, for one thing, the airlines treat their passengers like livestock, and for another, so many passengers these days, in terms of size, are not far off from livestock. No offense. It's an untenable situation, made all the worse when it's cloaked in the language of body positivity. But really, it's got nothing to do with any of that. This all stems from a total lack of concern for fairness, for health, and for the comfort and well-being of paying customers. And it's also a symptom of a common problem in our culture, one that we talk about a lot on this show, where time and time again, we encounter a situation where somebody has to be out of luck, right? It's a zero-sum kind of contest. Someone has to be inconvenienced. Someone has to be made uncomfortable. Someone has to be the loser in the situation. And when that happens, we always choose the wrong person to lose. We always give the short straw to the exact person who should not be forced to draw it. And we do this without even acknowledging that we're doing it. In the case of air travel, we can either require that morbidly obese people pay for first class or for multiple seats, or simply forbid them from buying tickets at all if they can't fit into one seat, or we can force normal-sized customers to give up a third or half of their seats and have their personal space invaded and be unable to use the features of the plane they paid for and force them to be uncomfortable and miserable for the entirety of their flight. Those are the two options. It has to be one or the other. The morbidly obese passenger creates a situation where someone has to be the loser. Someone has to come out on bottom. And someone has to be inconvenienced. And it's incredibly obvious that the someone in this case should be the morbidly obese passenger who has created the situation in the first place. But instead, just as we do with boys who want to access the girls' locker room and with many other similar situations, we say that the person creating the problem should be exempt from its consequences, while innocent bystanders should be forced to bear the burden. It's completely backwards and ridiculous. That's the situation. That's the thing here. When you are morbidly obese and you get on an airplane, you are creating a situation that didn't exist before. And someone's going to have to suffer the consequences, unfortunately, for that. Now, I say this even though I do have sympathy for morbidly obese people. I wouldn't want to be in that sort of physical state myself. But the reality is that it's a physical state you have to put yourself in. Nobody who exerts even the mildest effort to eat healthy and exercise will end up 200 pounds overweight. Okay, it might be difficult if you want to stay in good shape, especially as you get older, yeah, that takes sacrifice, that's difficult. But to simply not be 200 pounds overweight, that takes very little effort. Now, if it's your choice to live that way, it's your choice to shoulder the consequences. You can't demand that other people shoulder it for you. And that is why Sydney Watson is not canceled today, but her critics, in fact, are. And that'll do it for this portion of the show as we move over to the members block. Hope to see you there. If not, talk to you tomorrow. Godspeed.